they drop you. You know, and then you gotta find, yeah, you gotta find somewhere else to. Yeah, yeah. Oh, yeah, where they ran into the building. Oh, yeah, with the water. Yeah, yeah. Insurance companies don't like to pay losses. That's not how they build those buildings, by paying losses. You know. Hallelujah. So the insurance, automobile insurance, health insurance, huge. Um, it's hard to kind of even make it without health insurance now. Something go wrong. First thing they ask you, you got insurance? And then, thanks to President Barack Obama, kind of gave a lot more people insurance than had insurance. And, um, I don't know if that's going to happen because there's too many people now that have realized, even though they won't admit it, that the insurance deal wasn't such a bad deal. And I think America was one of the last uh, nations, yeah, to have some kind of insurance plan for the citizens. Right.
I read that, I don't know if it's true or not, but Japan uh, is not letting people come and visit the country if they have a medical bill, like
Mm.
if they owe a medical bill. Now,
Interesting.
why? I don't know why that is, but if you have a bill, you can't come visit.
Wow. Guess they figure if you ain't pay them, you ain't gonna pay them. Something happened to you over there. Hallelujah. So health insurance is really important. One of our daughters had a leukemia, and when it was all over, her bill was over $1 million. But the company she worked for had good insurance, And wow, yeah, what? Whoa!
I got my EOB yesterday.
I know you got insurance.
I better have because I can't afford it. I was telling myself
Wow.
I can't be sick. If I mean I wouldn't be able to take the medicine if I had to pay for that.
Yeah,
You imagine for 30 pills a month, $17,000 or 60, because I take two of that.
wow. So health insurance, automobile insurance, health insurance, and then there's life insurance. Right. What, life insurance? Well, it depends on the kind you have. Um, I've always had what they call term insurance. But when you have that whole insurance, they try to make it like, well, I ain't gonna, because everybody's got a different opinion. You grab your mic, talk. I know you got something to say. Talk to me about insurance.
Everybody should have it.
Amen. All right. I don't know. You might. Are you an insurance agent? No.
We shouldn't have to. I get what you're saying. It is a ripoff, but at the same time, let something happen, and you're gonna pay more than what you would have paid if you were paying a certain amount every month to keep. And I don't want anybody to have to try to. I told my family, don't go nowhere trying to get no GoFundMe, don't none of that. That's why I keep an insurance policy on me and my grandchildren and my children, and they're grown. But I make sure I have insurance on them so that I don't have to go and ask anybody for anything if something happens, because I've had to do that.
I understand that point, but being in that industry, it is, I mean, my mother told me, I was surprised when, we had the talk when she was letting me know something was wrong with her. And I said, okay, where's your insurance policy? She said, I don't have no insurance policy. I'm like, what? We've been in this industry all these years and you don't have insurance policy? I just kind of flipped out. And so she said something. She said, if you take what the insurance companies charge and put that away,
Facts.
if you just keep putting them away, it's just about discipline, that's it. And we're not disciplined. But if you put that money away, not unless you go early, something happens, then by the time something happens, you got more built up. You made more money than the insurance company's making off of you.
Absolutely.
If you can manage. So that's the whole thing, is that we have trouble managing.
Yeah.
And so, but if we did, and I was surprised because she said there is an account to take care of what you need to bury me. And I'm like, okay. And so I didn't find out until after she was gone. I'm like, this woman was just so smart, very smart. And I was like shocked, but I listened to her. So then I found them policies on myself and my 2 children that she had taken out many moons ago, paid off. At that time, we could have been buried for that. But we could no longer, it's like a mere $1,000. So the policies, the years that you're paying for them, the death benefits increase, not on the policy, but what you had to pay out. So if you can take a little, put it on the side and pay your policy till and they have these programs set up at the homes that you can go pay for them. And they even have some that are set up that even if in the event of death and you're not through paying for them, that they could be, that it could be paid for. So you don't have to come up with all that money. There are ways around it. But if you save your money now, I'm too old to do it now, but had I used that wisdom that she had many years ago, I would have a nice, healthy bank account, So I'm just saying there is a way around it because the funeral homes are getting outrageously expensive for the same work that they were doing. And it's not that the products are even going up anymore. They just,
Inflation.
it's more money. No, it's not even inflation. It's not even inflation because the products that they use don't even change that much. I mean, in price is what I'm saying. So now they're encouraging you to be in cremated. And so you can go straight from the table to the crematory and it doesn't cost you all that money. But what we do as a people, because we want to hold on and we like, so we can't just see our people go like that. We want to not take them straight to the crematory. We want to look over them, so that you got the embalming cost, you got the pickup cost, you got the burning cost, or the embalming cost, the casket cost. Not only the casket cost, you got a container, and a container, then you got the opening and the closing. So, it goes on and on and on. So you can avoid that. And if you don't want to avoid it, start now paying on your services. And get rid of that insurance that's going to just keep on eating you up for some years and some years. And one more thing I got to say about burial. I believe, this is just my belief in looking around, years ago, when they were using, either just putting them in the ground or using wood containers without all of the process, I believe that's a lot that's going on with our ecosystem, our grounds, because they're not, it's not, everybody's just sitting there, in the container. First, they were sitting in the caskets, and then they start putting you in the container. So this stuff is not breaking down and replenishing the earth. You know, I mean, you know, our bodies were to go back to dust and help replenish the earth, and so we're so far away from there. And I'm not. I mean, you know, it's just a pet peeve of mine, especially seeing how that thing operates. You know, so I'm just saying, think about the earth. Really think about how you want to get up and get out of here. Sit down and talk to your family. Start paying money if you have any, and get that over so they don't have the headache of doing it. You know, and I know a lot of people don't, but you know, talk about it and how you want to go. You know how you want to do it. Forget it. Just take me straight on. You know, put me back to the dust. So if I get burned up, then I know I'm going back to dust. Sprinkle. I told my husband, take me, and as he's driving down the road in the RV, just keep his arm out. Let the ashes just scatter. You know?
I just want to say really quick, I know we got to move on, but I just want to say I agree with you about preparing, being able to pay it off rather than pay the insurance, because my mother taught me that. And when I buried two people, two husbands, and I had already purchased their burial ground, the casket, everything, and I did pay for it a little bit at a time. I had a payment book and everything. So if we're not disciplined to save that money, that's the best way to go. My mother, when she passed away, I remember her telling me when I was a young girl that she already had made plans for how she wanted to, what she wanted, everything. Down to the dress that she didn't want a dress. She wanted a burial. What do they call them? Shroud. She wanted a shroud. That's what she asked for. And so when she died, she had like 10 of those little booklets or papers or tablet. She kept writing it over and over again, and she had she had just every detail. She wrote it out. She lived a long time, though. Some of us don't want to do that because we scared we start writing about it, we go. But that's not necessarily true, but she did. And the funny thing is, the funeral home tried to tell me that and I went with her when she paid all that stuff off, her last payment. But they called me back and said, "Oh, we found it." I was like, I know you did. But yeah, she had it all, everything. Even the service, she wrote that out. Yeah, so it's important. And that does work as an insurance policy, basically to pay for what you want done instead of giving it to the insurance company. It makes sense.
Insurance. I got $10,000 with Teamsters for a pension. And Allstate is my home and my car. I got Indiana University for my health. So God, and on top of that, Debbie's got me a plot in Muncie. So when God called me in, they're gonna have plenty of money for them to take care of. So I got everything in place. Yeah, it's a blessing though. Yeah.
Yeah. You guys got it. I can't. Okay, so I do kind of want to know your view on term life versus whole life. I have a whole life policy that has living benefits as well, and I had 100,000, but with all the moves, one of the policies lapsed, and so now I just have 50. But because I have so many pre-existing conditions, I didn't want to leave anything for my parents to have to pay for out of pocket. Their stuff is already covered, like they have the burial, all of that stuff taken care of. But because I didn't know, and because I'm still fairly young, I just didn't want to have to leave them with a whole bunch of stuff. But I also wanted to make sure that my policy had living benefits just in case if I was too sickly or whatever for them to take care of me, then I would have money in place for that as well. I did not see a term life policy that really met those needs. But what are your views on that? Because I know that they decrease over time, and if prayerfully I live a long life, I don't want it to decrease. So then, what are your views?
On a term as opposed to whole life, I think there's so many different variables when you get whole life, but just a very quick and simple definition is whole life is like term life with a savings plan attached to it. Term is the only benefit is whatever the amount is, that's what you're going to get when you die. But the whole life, there's a whole lot of different other things that can be attached, and so it's a lot more expensive, just depending on what the other stuff is.
Sounds like you got a good policy. A whole life with living benefits is rare.
Yeah.
It's hard to get. Yeah. It's hard to get a term package now with living benefits. A lot of the companies are going away from it, but that's a fantastic plan to have.
Existing conditions, it took me like 10 years to even find somebody that would insure me. Because they like, ooh, red flag, no, we're not doing that. So, yeah.
Yeah, they don't want to be left holding the bag. Yeah. But term life is like, to me, it's like you throwing money in a black hole, because the term life is just what it says. You get a 10-year, if something don't happen to you in those 10 years, that policy is gone, that money is gone. Then you have to start a new one. So the whole life more of an investment than it is a term life, because the whole life goes the totality of your life. Term is just that time that they give you, 10 years, 20 years, however many years. But once it's up, that money is gone. The insurance company have it. You ain't getting none of it back. It's a lost cause. So, but it's the cheap route to go, even though they offer that, like what you just said, it's difficult to get now with if you have a precondition or something of sort. So, but other than that, to me, just black hole, the whole life is the way to go, because it's more of an investment, because you can do some things with that, like Bishop said.
That's a big fat it depends. When it comes to insurance, it's never really, I know a lot of times it feels like it's a black hole, but insurance is risk mitigation and the costs associated with them taking your risk. And risk is a real thing. In the Army, when you go to leadership school, they teach you about risk management. And you got to make a risk plan to do everything. We're going to walk down the street. What's the risk plan? Well, if he trips and busts his forehead, I got a first aid bag in my pouch. You know what I mean? We have to put what they call risk mitigating factors and accountability for every action plan that we have. And so when you're really in that environment, you really get to see how real risk is. It's not just an imaginary thing, I know, because we can't really see it or feel it or taste it or touch it. It's this conceptual idea, but it's just as real as the wind. You know what I mean? But the fact of the matter is that when it comes to whole life versus term life, it all just depends on your goal. Can you self-insure? Absolutely. And that's the best way to ever do it, is to self-insure or to buy term until you can self-insure. But if you cannot, or if you don't have the discipline to self-insure, then you should make sure there's an institution behind you that will be there to cover that risk for you. And as far as whether it's whole life or universal life, those are both two different types of policies that vary from institution to institution, and they're all completely different because, as it starts off in the book, insurance are contracts. So it's whatever they decided to write in the contract. And for you, the contract may be X, but for him, the contract may be B. You know, you got two football players on a football team in the NFL. One's making $250,000 a year. The other one's making $20 million. What's the difference? Their contract. You know what I mean? One is deemed a more valuable player than the other. You know what I'm saying? So the contract makes a fundamental difference, and so that's why it's important to look at the contract and read it. Actually, take the time to read it to see if it is performing according to your desires or your goals. Now, you want to talk about what the super affluent do? What the super affluent do, and I mean super affluent, people that have family offices. Who knows what a family office is? People that have family offices, like the Rockefeller family, with over 200 descendants they're currently living, that are all worth over $200 million apiece.
Right.
They are all operating under insurance-grade whole life policies. All of them. That's how the Rockefeller fortune has preserved itself. You know, but most of the whole life policies that people buy in the market are junk. You know, and that's why I said it's important to look at the policy that you're looking at. Make sure that it's insurance grade if you are looking at this as an investment. And a lot of times when it's insurance grade, it's going to give you a below market return, normally somewhere in the neighborhood of 5 to 8%, but it's guaranteed.
Right.
5 to 8% guaranteed versus rolling your dice for the 10 to 12% in the market. You know what I mean? And so it just all depends on what you're trying to do, what kind of product you're looking for, and if you can even afford a whole life insurance policy that is insurance grade, because they're expensive. They want $50,000 down. They want $50,000 a year, and they have to do this because of something called MEC policies. MEC policies was something that the government put in place. It's called a modified endowment contract. And what they decided a long time ago, about 50 years ago, when people were making all this money and not paying taxes on life insurance, they said, this is too good of a deal. We have to do something. And so what they did was they put into place something that's called MEC laws. And MEC laws is what keeps an insurance contract from becoming too profitable. And so, you know, if they didn't have MEC laws in place, everybody would be just tossing their money into life insurance policies. But because they have MEC laws, that they want to keep you from MECing out, which means they have to make your contract so that the cash value and the cash value and your terms that are actually in the whole life policy, so that they maintain a certain ratio. And if you break that ratio, you'll MEC out, which means now that money is taxable. You know. But bottom line is, they're great policies if you have the money to afford them, and if you know what you're doing with them, and if you got a plan for them.
It's almost like the stock market. You're taking a chance. But I will say, if you have a policy that's paid up, say like 15, 20 year paid up, you can also, at least I know when I was still working there, you could take that policy and sign it over to the funeral home and make your plans then. And so you write all that out, and then whatever's left above that amount that you spend will go back to your family.
You're talking about paid up additions, PAUs, paid up additions.
Paid up policy.
Paid up additions, where you make a certain place in a whole life policy where now the return on your cash value is so much that they can use the return on your policy to continue to make your payment for you, so you never have to make another payment on your life insurance policy for the rest of your life.
Not that, I wasn't talking about that one, I didn't know, but I'm saying that after we paid for 20 years, like my husband and the children, they're paid up. So, but they're only paid up for the amount of the face value of the policy.
Okay.
So you can take that
So
policy.
that's a burial policy you're
Yes.
talking about. Okay.
And so a life policy. So if you don't bury them, it's still your money that you take away is that face value. So you could take that same policy and go and make plans at a funeral home if you have it paid up. But it's these policies that people have to continually pay, but the death, the amount that you get paid at death does not raise. You're still paying the same payment, but that doesn't raise, but your cost for burial goes up. So there's still not enough money. So I just seen it both ways, and I say take a little money, go to one of these places and make arrangements and start making payments. And once you get it paid, stop that policy. It's money lost. Not unless you get one that you can pull off of. Yeah.
So I don't know how much time we have left, and this may need to be for a whole nother discussion. But insurance in general, because I'm paying car insurance. I have health insurance through Medicaid, but if the insurance is not paying the things that need to be paid, but you have to have it. Like I got rear-ended 3 times last year within a month time frame, none of which was my fault, but 3 different people decided to run into the back of my vehicle. One of them did not have proper insurance because he was doing a ride share, and so I had to do 3 different claims. And so there's that. And then with health insurance, like, they don't want to approve my medications. They are super expensive, and I get that they don't want to pay for them, but they say they need doctor's approval or whatever. I'm like, if the doctor wrote the prescription, that's not approval enough. But that's my logic. How then do you still, like, exist and thrive and do all the things? Like, are there other options, or do you just have to just kind of deal with what you got?
Yep. So here's the deal. This nation is predicated upon who makes the most money. People have insurance companies because they have a service, and that service, insurance company, see, and here's the deal. What they try to add all this stuff to make it more, but insurance means, we're gonna spread the risk. That's what insurance is for, So somebody gonna die. Now, if it's you, then your family get the money. If it ain't you, guess what? You pay the bill, So either one way or the other, either you're going to be a recipient or you're going to be a payer, And I think I'd rather be the payer, right, than rather than die, Well, once you die, and I don't know why they call it life. They really ought to call it death insurance rather than life insurance, because you don't win till you die. It's death insurance. Right. It's but it's to lower your risk, just like any of these other insurances. Somebody's gonna get in an accident. You got car insurance. Hopefully, I'd rather just pay it and don't hit me, But if I'm the one to get hit, you still paying. If you didn't get hit, you paying, and
somebody gets you without insurance, then your insurance has to pick it up and get it repaired, and then they're gonna hike your insurance.
right. Yeah.
Or get rid of something.
And so that's the idea of insurance, but then they add all this other stuff to make it attractive so that it's not going down the black hole, as you say. But yeah, well, it's marketing, just like he said. It's a way to get you thinking I'm getting more than you getting, because all you getting is some money when you die, but all you getting is another savings account somewhere to put your money,
But only in whole life, though, Bishop, can you enjoy the proceeds while you're still living.
Right.
Because you've turned it into a savings account.
You can. But the other alternative is you on your deathbed and go, I win.
Bottom line, you're not going to win. You're not going to win at the insurance game.
But part of, I think part of what she was asking is about why is the payer always seemingly paying more than what the insurance would pay? Whereas, you know, insurance company, just like any other company, the customer is always going to foot the bill. So they're going to always mitigate their risk. So they're always looking to protect themselves. And with the amount of scams that's going on these days, of course, your deductible going to be more and all these things. So they just looking out for themselves. Some of them looking out for themselves to where they ain't taking on all the risk to where they're generating a loss to the company. Because, you know, most of them having shareholders and things like that, they looking to increase their bottom line steadily rather than dipping. So you always gonna foot the bill.
But they get in trouble sometimes, though. The insurance company get in
Use your mic.
I will say the insurance companies get in trouble sometimes because you have like these natural disasters that hurt. They got to pay out that money for everybody that's insured, and so that's like money that has been built up. You hadn't died yet, so I'm gonna use your money because I got to take care of this over there. So sometimes they get in a quandary where they're paying out a whole lot of money for losses, and so that's just the game.
That's why a lot of people in Florida are losing their homes right now, because they can't afford the mortgage payment because the insurance has gone up.
And guess who has? Do you know insurance companies have insurance?
Yep.
They insure.
Where they spread the risk across every licensed insurance agency in the state.
Yep. So don't feel too bad for them. Who? The way you know who's got the most money is you see who's got the tallest buildings, and most of them are either banks or insurance companies. Right now, I think the tallest building in Indianapolis is an insurance company, isn't it? Is it United? I think it's that United Life Assurance, I think. Is there one taller than that now? Because at one time it was the bank, like you say, but then they built that and it was taller than the bank. But anyway, yeah. So, okay. So what's the tallest now? Did somebody say sports or something like that? Oh, the J.W. Marriott? I don't know about that. I don't know. Yeah. Google it. Well, we've gone a little bit over, but I want to finish this last budgets. What budgets? Yeah, we're going to talk about it right now. That's okay. There's only one page. Well, so some people struggle financially because they never learn how to live within their means. It is wise to regulate your finances with a budget. Everybody say budget. A budget is a sum of money allocated for a particular purpose. This is budgeting 101. It's also a summary of intended expenditures along with proposals for how to meet them. Now we already talked about putting God first with tithes. A budget what? Budget writing? Oh, okay. Well, this is going to be the basics right here. The budget lists on a sheet of paper or a computer screen the total amount of money that is coming in and the total amount of money allocated to be spent. Designated where the money is coming from and, more importantly, where it is going. Home budgets include such items as rent or mortgage payment, utilities, transportation, insurance, food, insurances, food, clothing, recreation, gifts, charitable contributions, and savings. Each of these items may be broken down into sub-items such as utilities like water, gas, electricity, cable, and so on under the category of utilities. The idea is to keep track of spending and make sure you are not putting out more than you are taking in. And we talked about the plastic. Plastic can help you do that real quick.
Yeah, that has all these lovely things on it, and it starts off with your income or how much money you're bringing in, and then from there it goes down. So if anybody's interested, I'll be happy to email it to you because it has helped us tremendously to try to stay on track because it gives you the end results of that month, and it's a monthly budget. So I'm telling you, it has helped us get out of situations. Of course, there's always unexpected things, but if you stick to this budget, I'm telling you, it will help you. But it's the discipline. That's what we have to learn, is to be disciplined. Okay, so I can't stop and get this McDonald's or this Wendy's or this soda. Right. You really have to, stick to it if you want to be debt free. I mean, you just have to stick to it. Nothing.
Some banks have budgets.
They take y'all's mics.
That's what I'm gonna get.
Some banks have budget apps,
She was saying some banks have budget apps as well,
depending on your bank.
depending on your bank.
Amen. Use the number one thing for a budget is. That's not exactly what I was going to say, but live within or below your means. Live below your means. Below your means. Yeah. Well, have someone help you define what your means are. Because sometimes we define our own means and we put it way up here. Well, I know what I'm worth. They only paying me $10, but I'm worth $50 hours. So live where they pay you at, or below where they pay you at. She needs a mic.
Pay your tithes. I'm telling you, till I got that revelation, it was a rough go because I was like, Lord, what's happening that I can't get it? But the way I thought about tithes was wrong. And so when I started paying my tithes and paying it unto the Lord and quit looking at what's happening behind in the finance room or whatever they're doing with it, my obligation was to pay my tithes and then offering. And so once I start doing that, even because my money wasn't, this is not realistic, but okay, say I had $200 a week coming in, and my bills may have been about $300, my bills start being met, because I was taking from, it's like a widow mite. I didn't only had that, so I paid out of what I had, and the Lord just started blessing, and in that He started showing me how to budget, how to get to a point where you can have more, and it took a lot that I couldn't do, but pay your tithes. I'm telling you, the Lord will bless you, and I know everybody pays their tithe in here, but I'm just saying, Media land, pay your tithes. If you don't have a church, send your money somewhere for the Lord, because he will bless it. And you can send it 5601 East 71st Rock Church, Indianapolis, Indiana.
Amen. I think I've shared it with y'all before, but when years ago I was like the treasurer at the church, and so I got to see what people paid. I got to count it. And amazingly, so I knew who paid tithes and who didn't. Amazingly, the ones who paid tithes were the ones that had the nice cars and sometimes the people worked at a better place than they did and didn't pay, didn't hardly get nothing. Looked like they were struggling all the time. And I'm watching this, and our pastor, and this is really what blew me away, because he was also a family member, so I knew some of the struggles he had. When he started having financial struggles, he doubled his tithes. I'm like, what? Why is he doing it? I know he's going through this. He would like double it, So God's arithmetic is different than our arithmetic. Yeah. So, any other discussion? I'm sorry, we really kept us over time this time, but yeah. Well, let me end out here. We thank everybody that's looking over the internet. We thank you for being with us in the Bible study on the Ultimate Boost from Within. We're Rock Community Church at 5601 East 71st Street in Indianapolis, Indiana. And we have services on Sunday at 12 noon and on Tuesdays at 6 p.m. Bible study. And you are invited to be a part of our services. We'd love to have you. And if you could, if you ever want to talk to us, you can call us at 317-257-7625. And God bless you. We love you. In Jesus' name.